the computer. So I've spent the past 45 days uh, trying to code, practicing coding, just doing the mind-numbing task of just being annoyed and not being able to like build stuff and just like you don't even know what the folders mean. You don't know what like each of these abbreviations mean. You don't know what the commands mean. Uh, and then you're left thinking like maybe I should just stick with what I know. Maybe I should just go back to Zapier or make.com and follow the gurus on YouTube. And that seems easy. And they seem to make lots of money. The just to qualify this, those people that are making money with Make and Zapier and stuff, I think that's actually like a short fuse that it will not last long. It's same thing with like when the internet first came out and everyone started buying domain names. Yeah, there was a gold rush. There's a gold rush with everything, and we are leaving the gold rush with automation, like just simple Zapier. You're not going to be making 100K a month sort of thing with scaling to that height with Zapier automations. But ultimately, the reason why you'd want to learn to code is because this is going to be much cheaper and much more flexible and much faster after we learned this. Because if you learn how to scale it or just like focus it in, then you got everything you need. So if you're trying to do something where, like, let's say it's an automation for an entire organization that is a small company, we'll call it a micro size because if you're below the size of like 500 employees, then 500 is small, like in the official documentation of what is considered a business size. So we're talking micro companies, even that size, 20 people all having the same automation running where you're checking like Gmail, you're checking Slack, or you're checking like all these different things, or maybe you're crawling the SERP, whatever it is that your purpose is for like with a tool that you want to build, that gets really darn expensive very fast if you're going through make.com and Zapier, all that kind of stuff. So you might as well just learn this because there's new tools. There's all these tools that are out there. In the last video, just to recap, we went over everything from, hey, here are the tools that you have access to. Here's the general framework. Here are some prompts I use. And it was just like drinking out of a fire hose. But the goal was to show you that there are tools. And if you want to, before we have another talk like this, if you want to learn them, feel free. Something has changed since that last video, and I posted it almost immediately, but I no longer recommend Cursor. What I recommend is Windsurf. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to dig in. So let's just make sure that you guys are, everyone should just do this right now. Go to windsurf.ai and you'll be redirected to the proper spot. And if you haven't downloaded it, I would just download this. Do yourself a favor and mess with this. So this is free, by the way. I am still not paying for it. It's like it's completely free. Really crazy. So the reason why this is awesome, I'll get into it, is one, all of the extensions that exist inside your code. So typically you have this little thing on the side and you can search, think like WordPress plugins. And generally you're going to have like any sort of extension you could think of. It's like an open free library of stuff that you can do. You'll typically download programming languages. You might want to put GitHub in here, which is like a cloud storage, different notebooks, different features. You don't have to know what these are. It's just, I'm letting you know that's what the extensions are. Uh, the file is actually what all these files are. You're typically going to have the same file structure for just about everything. Let me pull that up to show you what that looks like. Okay. So where is this? Did I go over the file structure? Yes, great. So let me go over some of the code before we actually dig into building out and going through this, just so you're understanding what each of these files are. Getgore, we'll say this, .md, .json, .py, that's the file type. And as you change the name of your files, you'll actually get a little like icon that changes what it looks like. Next, you have a file called getcore. And this is something that, as you're doing things in your code, you have sensitive information like API keys and just things that you don't want just being distributed. So the getcore is just a way for you to designate, hey, I don't want this to go to the cloud and like potentially expose things and like security vulnerabilities, all that kind of stuff. Or maybe it's just private documents, which is something I'm going to recommend that we go through this process. And an example of documents you don't want to push with your code would be API information. So if you're trying to build, right now I'm building a personal assistant and it connects to Gmail, it connects to Google's like storage database called Firebase, it connects to Slack and then Google Calendar. Those sorts of, while AI is pretty good, it can definitely code with very little coding and with very little prompting. You can get about 70% of a code project done with just, you know, the tools. It basically hardly anything. Really ridiculous. Let's see here. You want to have docs though saved where you can actually upload the information because you need to measure against what the AI has. It's always 6 months behind you. There are all of these updates. So what you're going to do is the process will look something like this. We'll go to the top. You have the change log, which is going to document all the changes so you can keep track. And it's a way to have memory. You have a file tree, which shows the entire structure in a way that's really compressed. Uh, you cannot have an AI have the knowledge of everything that you're building. So as a result, we create a file tree markdown file. Project requirements. That's what we're going to work on together here because that's going to enable you to do whatever project. The goal by the end of this is you should be able to start a project and you should be able to iterate on that project. So I'm going to show you how to set this part up and then how to do your testing to make sure that you're actually succeeding and that these tools all work as they should. And testing, you have three different ways of testing. You have unit tests, which is like the smallest little piece of how something should work. You have integration tests, which is the next layer, so layer two. And that's going to start bringing in more units together, forming some sort of relationship there. There's a logic system associated. Then you have end-to-end testing, which is the highest level of testing, and that's going to be end-to-end. It's just making sure everything works. So last is the specific API docs and examples. So it's really, really helpful to have examples. And it is so frustrating when you're trying to build an AI tool that uses AI for whatever. And it's like, yeah, let's use this version of OpenAI. I'm like literally prompting OpenAI, and OpenAI is hallucinating, not aware of like the documents, basically. So all we do for getting documents is you just Google it and literally like grab a file, copy and paste, and you can just like put it in a document. So I'll show you how to do that. So here's the high level of what a project requirement document looks like. Let's maximize my screen. We have a database, we have authentication. You don't have to have user journey here, but I like putting it all together. User journey, technical requirements, so like hardware, software, API stuff. You have your security stuff. You have your back end. These are like servers and how you handle data. Front end, so what are the pages? Basically, every single piece of a tool, if there is a screen or a modal pop up, you have to define it. Uh, it's really, really crazy just how many files you have to create to have like a working SaaS, even if it's your own private version. Um, Project overview. And then that's basically it. And then you're defining the relationships. Here's what that looks like. I've already shared this in the group and I created a video for the group so you guys can go through that to kind of get you started. But that's all you need here. Lastly, source code. So let's finish here and then we'll start coding. Source code contains the majority of all the code that makes the project function. AI, I like to have a folder just for AI stuff, whatever I'm doing with AI. API, that's a folder for just my APIs. A config file is basically how you're configuring the app. So you manage it using this folder. The more you have, the more complex it gets. Schemas are defining the structures and rules for data. So like database, if you're storing information, what is the logic for how you store? when you store, how often you go to the database, in what situations, what if there's an error, what are you supposed to do? This kind of logic, you need to account for everything. That's what this is for. Services, that usually is logic for business operations and external system logic, API calls, different things like that. Utils, these are the smallest little utility functions that are like formatting the dates or manipulating a string or calculating something. Just little pieces of code that are you need to make sure that it works because when you calculate something or use this utility, often that calculation then goes and gets factored into like one of the larger uh, configurations or whatever you have. A test file, this is going to have all our files for testing. We want to consolidate it so that we look at what the files say and then we create tests so we can figure out does this app work in all of the situations that it should work. Then we have pages. That's going to be your front end pages. Assets are your images, fonts, icons. Docs is our documentation for our any information we're giving it from the outside world to inform the AI goes in here. Scripts stores automation scripts to build or deploy code. So oftentimes you might want to, hey, can I list out every file that's in my database or in my code? I want to just print everything, or I want to list every utility, every unit of functional code that I have. I just want that so that I can figure out, all right, I need to test all of these. You can do that too. That's what like these scripts are for. Lastly, modules. We don't need to go over that. Last thing is the environment. So the environment is managing your settings, and it's basically you have passwords, API keys in here, and then a lot of times for my testing, I have a virtual environment to test in. So let me show you what that looks like now. I'm not going to go through these code commands. You can go through this later. You have explanations for each of the tools. You've got literally everything here, everything I'm doing, my philosophy as well. You've got links to stuff. You got the videos where I'm going over the AI stuff as well. So that's what this is for. All right, now I'll put this in the chat just in case no one has it or you haven't seen it. Chat. Perfect. And then, great. Let's get into the code. I'm going to have two things up. So what we need is one. Let's actually get the, let's get this up. Where's the, perfect. Put this over here. And yeah, this works. And then let's get my coding prompt. Okay, so here's the prompt. I've shared it in the group as well. We have the foundational prompt. This is in the classroom as well. Now I want to go over exactly how you use this. And I'm going to use, Joel was nice enough to give me an example of something he wanted to build, which is called Shift Sender. So let's actually use the pretty version. Shift Sender is a comprehensive employee scheduling solution designed to streamline shift management process for businesses. So we have different things like SMS reminders, pre-populated form reviews, daily availability and role selection, submission, confirmation, post-submission feedback, schedule access, innovation, make shifts available, shift pickup, manager approval. If you guys have ever worked at a restaurant or something like healthcare, or you just have these shifts, basically, it's a system to manage these shifts, which is pretty simple enough to do. The only complexity I'm seeing here is probably some of the logic, how extensive we want, where are we wanting it to connect to multiple calendars? Do we want it to just do one calendar? Should we launch with with SMS reminders, or should that be a feature post launch? Typically, I would recommend that you're just going to limit it. I would not, it's totally fine to have multiple, but I would say just start with like a core. So core functionality is one. If this is a tool using AI, I need an OpenAI API or whatever tool that we choose. And then I need calendar and probably email. That's probably my minimum. So Gmail, Google Calendar, and that's kind of it. So I would focus on that first. and that's going to be our foundational element. And then we can tack on some of the other features later. So now we need to go through this prompt. So you are a skilled software architect and system designer. I'm going to gather all of the information about a project in a simple, non-technical way, and it's going to guide us through this process. So it has a bunch of questions. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open, where is OpenAI? Normally I have the software, but it's gone now. Okay, that's fun. I'll just open up OpenAI here. So odd. ChatGPT. I'll use ChatGPT for this. Unfortunately, I don't have preview. I love to use preview for this. So I think what I'll do, I'll show you with 4.0, but I'll use the platform over here. Just know that basically even though I don't, this resets it in like an hour and a half or something. Basically, I start with 4.0, and you can always, in the middle of a conversation, switch and then use a different model that is better at different things. So 4.0, we like to start with that one first because it's a little bit faster, allows us to iterate, get to a certain spot where then we can move it over to 0.1. 0.1 will take 30 seconds to a minute to respond to you. That's just like it's a big delay. 4.0 is instant. So 0.1 is also super good at if you had like 20 different things that it needed to do, it'll keep track of them all and it'll actually do it. So that's perfect for code. Strangely enough, it is not the best at actually coding itself. It's still really good. It's a great model, but it's I don't actually think it's better than 4.0 at coding. And ultimately, the best model for coding, no qualm, there's no debate. It is Claude 3.5 Sonnet. That is the best. And for free inside of Windsurf, you have access to it. So let's dig in. So first, I'm going to say I have a system for outlining my coding project. I'm going to give you the system. You can respond with yes. With yes to it. Why is my brain going crazy? Acknowledge. There we go. And I'll give you further instruction. Oops. Where was that? Doc. Oh, no. I needed the coding prompt. Okay. Here we go. And then next, yes, good. Next, I'm going to give it some thoughts. So I'm going to show you how I do this. Do I not have the, wonder if I can use voice mode here. Let's see. If I can, that would be sick. Hey, ChatGPT. So can you hear me? Okay, so I'm recording a video and they can't hear you because your sound is going into my headphones, but I love this feature where I can just talk to you. So I'm going to talk to you and tell you about the tool that I'm building. And that's all. All you need to do is have a simple kind of one sentence response afterwards. So let me just get into it. The tool is called Shift Sender, and it is a comprehensive employee scheduling solution designed to streamline the shift management process for restaurants. And the platform offers a user-friendly interface for both employees and employers, incorporating features such as shift request submissions, automated scheduling, and real-time updates. And by addressing common pain points in workforce management, we aim to enhance efficiency, improve communication, and optimize resource allocation. We will have weekly email reminders, pre-populated form reviews for displaying the employee's general availability and preferred schedule, allowing for quick updates or one-time requests. We're going to have daily availability and role selection so employees can designate their status for each shift. and select preferred roles it trained in multiple positions. Submissions and confirmation. After reviewing a weekly summary, employees submit their request and receive a confirmation prompt with all submissions logged for employer access. And then there's also a post-submission feedback and schedule access. There's making shifts available so that you can track the scheduled shifts and availability. There's shift pickup, so basically you can pick up shifts. And we're going to be using Google Calendar alone and Google or Gmail for the email. And we're trying to basically use the most rapid, quickest way to develop. So we want to use Google Firebase for our database, Google Calendar for the calendar, Google Email alone. We are aware that we're going to have additional features and additional complexity, but we are trying to focus this in as much as possible. So, lastly, there's manager approval and flexible timing. There's the employee dashboard with management, with metrics and private notes and stuff. There's flexible role designations, long-term, short-term adjustments, and special event marking as well. And there's also going to be an OpenAI API using 1.55.1. Your knowledge is 6 months old. Just know that is the latest version. And the model will be GPT 4o. And we also will probably want to include GPT 4o mini for different tasks as well. Perfect. So can hopefully you guys could actually hear all that. Were you able to hear this, people? Hello, hello. There we go. Were you guys able to hear me talking?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Good. I
I
was.
can hear you. We could not hear ChatGPT.
Yeah, it only talked once. And then basically it said, "Yes, I can hear you. What's on your mind?" That's what it said. Talked really nice, though. It said all sorts of nice, or it sounded very nice. Then it said, got it. And then I basically just ended it after it said scheduling solution. So that was 3 minutes, and this is much easier. So while he already has something up here, the goal is just use the audio function inside of here. You're going to dictate to the AI, and then from there, you're able to just uh, get where you need to go. So next is now you have the context to answer the questions and fill out the framework that I've provided you. Please fill out the framework and contextualize it for our purposes, something like that. Pretty neat though, right? We're just moving along. So I can tell you after building Content Sprout, this was a process that I was not really that good at, and I couldn't really figure out it. It's just before AI, it was a pain in the ass to sit down and like write all this stuff out, and I didn't know a structure for it. I didn't know what like I didn't have developers that would even teach me to be the partner they needed. That's the problem is that's the difference between a $15 an hour developer and a $150 an hour developer is largely they know how to guide you. And when you go on the high end, you don't really get any guidance. So even if you don't want to code, knowing the beginnings of this, it's so powerful because then you're able to lead a team and you can get developers for $15 an hour. So just be aware. Maybe you only want to get your code to a certain spot and then hand it off to a developer. That's possible as well. All right, so it's done now. So now we've got all of this here. And next I wrote down stuff in my Gamma where I had that specific prompt, right? So now I'm going to say this. I have a bunch of headers for our project requirements doc which we are creating. I want you to continue by outputting in Markdown as the file will be named project requirements.markdown. Here is the full list of categories we need to fill out to have a proper document. This is when O1 would be super helpful because I could, with one go, I could probably just get it to fill this entire thing out from here. Instead, we're going to have to break it up into a couple different editing prompts. It'll probably try to write the whole thing. Yeah, right. And then it's best in 4.0 to go one by one. So you'll say user journey, then technical requirements one by one. Keep in mind, once again, if you had O1, you're able to just in one fell swoop do this, which is so awesome. Well, it's creating outside of my thing, but let's do. So this is when like the process doesn't have to be super rigid. There's a couple ways you could do this. We could start with a user journey. We could maybe specify all the technical requirements. We could go in any of these, but I think starting with user journey makes the most sense to me. Okay, so I already gave you a lot of this info. With the info you have, fill out the markdown file and then tell me what we are missing. I know for sure we don't have a user journey or a file tree. So the difference between you staying up super late at night and then like running the same test and seeing fail, and having success, and also you not being like having to undo a bunch of work is literally just focusing a lot on spending about an hour on this process here. Because when you spend an hour at the front end, it's sort of that like measure twice, cut once sort of thing. And you're just going to get a much better experience. Is the screen big enough where you can see it? I can try to zoom in. We could probably just do this, honestly, for now.
You can close that GPT sidebar. Left,
There we
far
go.
left, yeah.
Missing info. Okay. Let's create a detailed step-by-step user journey as I've uh, be very thorough. This is easy. It's just like you're waiting here. I like to work where if I wasn't recording something, I could have two different like screens, or I could have two different tabs and try to work on other stuff too, because you typically get about 30 seconds per command to do something else. So it's pretty good. Yep. Okay, so I do have a file tree prompt. So here is the file tree prompt. Okay, so great. This is great. Add it. I'm not even gonna to say add it yet. I'll just keep it here. This is great. Let's now handle the file tree. Here is the prompt framework to use to handle the task. Make sure you contextualize it around our project requirements.md doc that we are creating. Okay, so now we have this prompt. So there is one thing that I've skipped here. I asked it to create a file tree, but I did not tell it, I didn't give it the context of my technical expertise. I didn't give it the context of today's date. I didn't give it the context of how I plan on creating this. You could give it extra context, and then that's going to affect your file tree. Because if I were to tell it, I'll show you. If I were to tell you that it's December 2024 and AI coding tools have really impacted the coding environment, I am a noob at coding. I will be using AI coding tools inside of an IDE with agentic flows. I'm just using literally the text that's on the website that control VS Code tools, terminal access, extensions, etc. So next, I'm just going to say something like, I don't have a lot of money or experience. I do want a tool that has a modern looking design that is minimal and easy to navigate or something. Does this new information impact your file tree recommendation? So this will be a perfect exercise to show you how context matters. I haven't tested this exact thing. I'm just assuming that it's going to matter, but great. Sweet. What about the programming language? You didn't mention that at all. Am I sticking with JS or is there something else? I hear a lot about Python, React, Next.js. If you watch, literally just search, you search a couple videos on like coding with AI or something, you'll get enough lingo where you're like, okay, yeah, these are like, there's like 5 languages people talk about heavily on YouTube. I'm not saying you must change the language. I just want you to consider. Do I have to do this? I have no idea what it's asking of me.
I think you got a new iteration while you were going.
Yeah, for real, dude.
Like you got an update.
I think so.
Pick one.
I hope it didn't just like lose track of everything. Yep. Modern design. Option one, JavaScript with React and Next.js. Why it fits is front end, back end, one language. React for front end. React is a widely used library for building modern responsive. It is built on React but adds server-side rendering, API routes, and file-based routing for simplicity. JavaScript libraries like Google APIs integrate seamlessly. Start with React for a front end, add Next.js to handle routing and server-side logic, and use Firebase for backend services. That sounds fine, honestly. Python and Fast API. I recommend if it ever says now, Corey, I know you're a coder. Well, from as far as I can tell, Fast API is the one to use, not Flask. If I have the option, I am going with Fast API. Do you have experience in Flask?
So totally love Flask. I'm a big Flask fan just because of the compiling on the front end. I like them both, but
Hmm.
Flask on iteration. So like, if we have a really nice Python book and we drop that, Flask can take care of a server really quick. And I like their libraries that they're touching because they're free.
Let me mute. I muted him. Okay. Yes, you like their libraries.
I like them. They're both very, very okay in my opinion. But I like Flask because it has more dependencies down the road and like everything's happening so fast right now. Flask is solid. So you will find in Flask sometimes where they won't have the newest iteration of a lib. And that's when I'll go down that other road. But I like to print, I like my requirements text and I like to print that Flask so that every time that Python file is dropping, I make sure that node has every lib it needs because sometimes you're moving nodes in the cloud and you don't know it. And that, or you might know it, but as you get into the deep doo-doo of the code, it's like, okay, I might have missed that IP. But if I missed that IP for provisioning the other way, if I drop that Flask on top of that in the Python as an iteration, like I know it's going to get installed and I'm not going to have a testing error right out of the gate because I
Mm.
don't have a library. That's
So
why I like
Okay. That
if you're going
happens
to
a
go with
lot.
Flask, do you feel like going with Flask would require an additional folder within the dependency folder, or I mean, would that be something that you would want to
is
build into this with those?
I mean, it's whatever flavor you like, right? Because Flask becomes Python becomes whatever flavor in this instance and like to, stay out of the way. But if you have a Flask iteration in your install, like that's just a foundational thing in my
Yeah.
opinion. Because when you go through, so generative logic, you go through 100 files, you need, you know, 22 libs. I feel like it makes sense to give your server and your logic the ability to hold that quickly and go, hey, this requirements.txt file is the boss. And if we install 46 libs and we only use 20 of them, there's a little security there, but you can go back and peel that out. It's just really fast deployment, in my opinion.
That's seems like pretty good intel.
I mean, when you drop a Flask, so when you drop a Python file that's like generatively ready to spin up whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's a ML Auto Tune or something simple, even simpler, like if you can declare that Flask, then you're already past errors, right? Or you're gonna get called errors from Jupyter or whatever you're using that say, hey, this you're trying to use Conda Linux 8.12 and you need 8.14, right?
This pause real quick because that is the issue you're going to run in. Everyone here, if you're coding with AI, it's the headache is that he's describing the number one problem with AI coding is you have a version 8.1, oh, but it only works with 8.3, and oh, even the latest model of Python doesn't play nice with this other thing. So like you actually need to roll back the version of Python you're using until they update something or fix something. It's just a lot. It's a lot of like that kind of shit. So anything that can help you, where Corey's pointing out, uh, avoid that kind of issue. That's very, very helpful. So this is good advice. Sorry to interrupt you, Corey. I just wanted to contextualize as someone who's been working as a noob with AI. This is such a huge headache.
Yeah, and so my question, Corey, was just about the, like you said, that foundational structure. I mean, if that is going to be the approach that we take to this entire thing, where we can pre-qualify anything that we see coming down the road like that, like these, versioning issues, and if every time we're throwing one of these, Flask nodes or whatever, we already know that those are solid. Maybe keeping those in a, I don't know if it's like the test folder on the tree, or if it's the integration or in the
You
scripts
can,
folder,
I
you
mean,
know.
you can simplify it for your brain. Even the way I think of it is this is just another stack that I install. So I know that like, what I'm working on, I need this 40 stack. So I have a py file that all it is for is when I spin up a node, I just drop the py file and I execute it and it writes everything to the server. And then I don't think about that until I'm way down the road and it's like, okay, now we're here and we need 8.12, but we have 8.13. Like that's an easier fix at that point than trying to figure it out from the beginning, right? So think of that kind of your requirements text, like Andrew nailed it, right? That's your foundation. Pour that concrete every time. There's no hurt in putting a node up and just proliferating it with everything that you want to taste and touch, and then you're going to get responses back from whatever engine you're using that's going to say, yo, I can't do this because of this thing, versus if you're not doing that, you're going to get back like, hey, I got an error, right? So I
Right.
think it's a really important jump off spot because like Andrew said, I spend more time with that right now than anything, even with that system in place. Like they change it every day and everyone's pushing.
Wow.
Yeah. So what I'm doing right now is I automated all that inside of here. Now you're going to save a lot of money if you just do it inside of ChatGPT, and which is like only $20 for virtually unlimited, and Windsurf, which is basically, I think it is free, and I can do this too. It literally cost me about $25 in credits doing it this way, because to automate it and to ensure that things don't break, I have to keep more context. So that's why I charge 30 bucks for it. But if you do want to use it, it does exist. You do not have to use this. I didn't build this for to make money. I literally just did it to basically scaffold out stuff really quickly. And I figured building something like this out, I could adapt it later as I want. But that's the whole goal of this is it builds all of the stuff out based off of the information that you give it. So that's all I wanted to call out. Inside of Content Sprout, you can do that. Let's go back to ChatGPT. Uh, I feel like it's still cutting it off. Maybe I just reordered it and put the file tree at the bottom. I don't know. For the sake of what we're doing, though, I'm not going to try to get it perfect. So what we have now is this is kind of like everything we need. So we have a user story, which we could probably create more if we wanted. But this is fine for now. Technical requirements has the front end requirements, and it's saying exactly what each of these things are. Back end requirements, we ended up using Next.js, so I didn't want to gloss over that. We made the decision to do Next.js and uh, basically that code environment based off of what was it? It was here's the updated one. Okay, yeah, so it was at this point. So it gave us some options and then it told us at the end, like, this is kind of where I think you should go. For me, I really like this setup here for the front end because this is the thing that it's the easiest prompt. Uh, you can use V0, another tool to help you to build stuff out. And it's just really, really nice where like you can have so many things. Let's see if I can show. Oh, this one actually isn't one. YouTube Chrome extension, maybe. Yeah, great. Let's do this. I don't know if it actually has it. Index. Man, I want to show it. This is also using the old version. Okay, yeah. So basically, I'm able to visualize the stuff that I'm building, each of these screens and stuff. Here's the welcome. Wonder if the index does it here. Still no. I don't know if it actually worked in the end. No. Transcription modal. Okay, yeah, here's a transcription modal. So it gives you the ability to sort of like build this stuff out and to flesh it out in real time. And then it'll actually, you could essentially build out the entire front end of your tool just using this, and it gives you all the files now. It used to only wrap it into a single file. You literally get a whole file tree now. And then if you're really new, which all of us are, you can even deploy the code straight from here too. So you can do all sorts of stuff. You can add it to a code base. You can deploy it. I like V0 a lot. It's like $10 or something. But it is really, really good with specifically React and Next.js. And all of these coding tools are really good with those languages. So, not that this has to be this language. You could go so many angles. All of these recommendations were good. I think this one's a great recommendation. I love Python, and Corey was great in sharing why he liked Flask. So that's the thing. Don't take the first response. I think that's the thing to learn here. You got a response, but keep in mind you did not give context. If you want to uh, ensure that you have the best experience possible, then make sure that I think perfection is the enemy here. We're just looking for easy. When you have it, I don't know if any of you guys have had like a workout, what do you call it, a workout coach or something, a personal trainer. But I used to have one, and the personal trainer told me that the whole goal initially is you need to just have the habit and you need to not hate this. And that's all we're trying to maximize that. So what I'm sharing here, just keep in mind, I am optimizing for you being able to do the reps without while minimizing the amount of pain. And you will, if you get really audacious and you're like, man, I really want to make something, then what we're doing here, you would adjust the context. You wouldn't try to tell it, simplify it. You would say, I want to turn this into a SaaS that gets $1 million a year, $2 million a year. My subscription price is this. My audience is this. Now what language? And then it'll tell you. So keep that in mind. Do not start hard. All right, so I'm going to copy this. Oops, I don't want to read that. Please don't read that. Gosh darn it. So I'm going to do this now. Great. And next, let's make sure technical requirements, front end, back end. We're good to go. So now I'm going to bring this into our tool for windsurf. So let's do new window. Um, let's just do this. I'm starting a new code project. I have no files created so far. However, I do have this. One thing to note is all of that information that I just gave, I need to, I can actually go over this, but I'm going to use this real quick just to make sure you guys have it. Is uh, this is the developer platform. You're not going to have access to this. That's why I didn't want to show it, but I do want to at least go through the practice of doing this. You would go to O1 inside of ChatGPT. I need you to be the expert coder or expert software engineer that is able to poke holes into my plans. Don't poke holes for shits and giggles. Just poke and break if it's helpful and necessary. Here is the foundational info you will need. The app or the program is built for restaurants specifically. And here we go. So you'd run this, and then imagine we're in ChatGPT, and this is your final double check, right? You're just getting a little bit of info that's going to tell you, do I need to flesh this out even more? Inside of O1 in the back end, you can sign up for this, by the way. You have no limits if you use this and your data isn't tracked. So just go to platform.openai.com and you can apply for an API key. I highly recommend it. I think everyone who wants to mess around with this, you will need this. That is something, actually, I'm glad we're here. I forgot. You absolutely need this because you cannot invoke ChatGPT in an app unless you have an API key anyway. So you're going to have to go to platform.openai.com. Uh, you can go to a YouTube video. There's so many things on this. It's not super hard, but if you do have confusion with setting this up and whoever's watching this video runs into a dead end, as long as you've tried something and failed, I'm fine helping. I just don't want to. I get so many people asking for help, and I was just helping a member of the group, and it was obvious they didn't do the work that I'd asked them to do. I don't want to help those people. I want to help the people that tried and failed. Great. I will take time out of my day for and make sure that you're taken care of. So keep that in mind. All right, so here we go. Relying heavily on this means you adhere to their usage limits, implement caching strategies, some content. This is great advice. Some context. I am using AI to code and I'm a noob. I want use the words MVP so that I can get something up and get people interested and get data for additional features. Some of your recommendations are good no matter what the context. Please output a markdown file that is the production ready version. Okay. So I'm just going to take this. Hopefully it's, yeah, great. Perfect. It even said MVP scope. So although it seems odd, or like, why does this matter? 200 simultaneous users with this. If you run tests, a lot of times you'll find these little errors of you tried to do this and like this setting wasn't there. So we're actually getting some technical specifications that are nice using this tool. Database schema. This is perfect. It even gave us a glossary. Okay. Perfect. Now we're ready, guys. I do have this project requirements.md. Info. Please create the file and create the file tree. Do not create the file tree with empty files. We just need placeholders. And then you paste it in. You're going to want to be on write instead of chat. Chat, it won't actually execute. It's just going to outline, which sometimes is helpful. Send. So it is now creating this, the rest of the content as provided. So this is one of the things that happens a lot is I add in this environment, you do not have the same flexibility as you have in OpenAI or like ChatGPT. So you really need to narrow it down. I asked it to output so much stuff, and honestly, that's not what it just won't do it. So I'm gonna do this, and now that's actually what I'll do instead. So now I'll say accept. I have that in that Gamma doc. I show what these commands mean. It's really not, there might be like 30 definitions that you'll purely by just exposure, you're going to understand. So you don't need to sit there with note cards. But just know, like, all of us have had a language course before. This is so much easier because we only need a few, literally 30 words, and then maybe a couple phrases and then understanding some of the tools that exist. So this is pretty easy. But as you're seeing this, it's literally going and creating all of these. Pretty neat. Well, it should be. We'll see. I haven't tried to create without initially having like a project folder. So like typically what I mean by that is I would create this, I would say a folder, and I would say shift sender, and then I would open that up inside of here. So it is not doing that. Let's see if it actually created it now. The main project folder. Let's do this. To actually do it now. Yeah, it actually has it now. Okay, so I just needed to give it a folder apparently. So it uses things on your desktop or whatever. So what I recommend is you create something, a folder called projects, and then you contain all your projects in there. So you're going to have projects and then you'll put shift sender or whatever else in there. It's going to be super easy for you to find. Keep in mind, everything that this is doing in real time is constantly editing all of the contents of these folders. So that's all that's happening here. Now, when I opened that, it took me out of my conversation. If I want to start a new conversation, I can, or I can click right here for past workflows, and now I am up and ready. So next is, I'm just going to say the README is super thin. Please update it and make it more, make it better. I also want a docs folder, which will contain information I give you about code examples and specific API information. No files are needed in here. All right, so as this is, oh, frick, I have to do this. Great. So now I've got this docs. So let me show you the next piece that I would do. I know that my APIs are going to be like Google. So I'll do like Google Calendar API GitHub, maybe. I know you could probably just go to Google Calendar API and go to their website for it. But I like having the actual files themselves. So let me just kind of give you an explanation of what you would want to do. Always try to find the highest level overview and you just copy. So this is very thin. So what I'll do instead is quick start and I'll find, uh, I guess I would do JavaScript. Is that what we're on, Corey, if you're still here? We're on Next.js, but I think it's either JavaScript or Node.js or it's one of those JSs.
Yeah,
Shashi.
next.
Yes.
But it's not here, so I don't have like a quick start then.
No, you just have to go in through Java and pick it.
through Java. But this, if I were to give it this, would that be enough? Or do I have to find like, I might just actually say that Google Cal API quick start for Next.js. There's also videos, but okay. You can go through here and you can just copy all this stuff. So I can copy the code sample, and literally what I can do is just go through here. It's literally just like working on the end. Um, and then I'm going to, you don't need to use AI for everything. So I'm just going to go to Docs, you click it, and then you hit the file, and I'm going to do uh, gcal docs file, no, gcal help dot doc. So now this is just like a normal Word doc. I'm going to paste. So I would paste that in, and then what you're going to want to do is potentially you'll want to add this stuff too, or maybe you want to go somewhere else. But I'm adding that, and then I'm trying to find if there's like another area. I typically go to, so okay, credentials. Yeah, I'm going to give it this too. So it has this information, and I'm only going to do it with this one because I think you guys are good for all the other stuff. You can probably just understand how to do this on repeat. I will show you the GitHub part though. So typically what I'm trying to do is I'm looking at, uh, I'm trying to find a specific thing in here that can be like a code example. So that's all I'm doing. I would go through here, find the language that, this is Python, so I'm not going to use this, but you find the language that you're using, and then you would simply go to the docs, or go to, you're just kind of like digging through. Go to the source. Okay, there's templates. No, I don't need that. Okay, so now I know here are some things. So if I want to have reminders, well, here's the some text on reminders. If I want attachments managed or calendars specifically, events, here's a getting started. You're literally just copying, copying, copying. And sometimes I'll just, if I don't know enough about the code, I'll just add as many things as I think I might need into that doc, and then I have it read it, and then it will. This is my troubleshooting doc, basically. So I'm always going to ask it to write the code on its own, and then I'll say, "Hey, review the document here." It will review it. It'll typically just like kind of glance at it. So then you'll need to say, stop it from doing further activity and just say, I need you to read the whole doc. Please read everything. It's easy to know if it read everything because of this. Uh, you have lines of code here. The maximum it reads in a single go is 200 lines. So if you have more than that and it only shows one bubble, like this one bubble here means that it only went through 200 lines maximum. But if I know there's 600, it means that I know it didn't read it until there's three bubbles. That's all there is to it, guys. I literally just had a meeting with my developer who's been a developer for a while, and he's pretty darn good. He's not like a senior dev, but he's a solid developer. And he this is blowing his mind. Just being able to do this shouldn't blow his mind, but it's the fact that AI can make use of this without having to like, dig through it that makes it so special. Because I don't have to even spend the time to try to find the specific code snippet. Doesn't matter. AI will find it. Like it will find it in that giant block, and it will make sure that it is correct. And that's what's so special here. And all you need to do is invoke it using the at. So now I can say at gcal, and now I can say review what you just did by looking at the most up-to-date info from the API. Something like that, right? I'm not going to say that, but I'm just letting you know that's how it works. Okay, so now we move on to the file creation prompt. File creation prompt is What is this one? That's the testing and debugging. Where did that prompt go? Okay. Oh, coding prompt final. So now I'm going to do the final specific file prompt. So you copy this specific prompt, and then now you go back in. You say, uh, starting, give it the context. All the files are empty other than our project requirements and README. We've scaffolded out the files, and it is time to create the files. Please identify the best file to begin with by looking at my prompt framework or my coding framework. I'm making this up on the spot for some of this stuff. Like these little sort of dialogues, there's not like a specific thing. You're just kind of like, it's the essence of like what you're trying to accomplish here. You're trying to just like, what I'm solving for is I don't know where to start. And in my head, I'm thinking I could very easily start with something that doesn't impact a lot of other things. So really, I'd rather start with whatever has the most impact across the entire code base. So I'll even say that if a file will have a great impact across the code base, it probably makes sense to create that. But I could be wrong. Here's the framework. Paste. So one thing I'm already seeing with this is that I didn't, because I left off, I didn't go through all of this, right, for this document. And let's see. Actually, this doesn't have it. So because I'm building an app that already does this, that does like some AI logic, I know that it is a beast to create that logic. Basically, right now, there's not anything scaffolded out for how to make like these dynamic decisions and like templates for decision making and templates for responses and uh, what is the logic system for AI? Like that's a really deep thing. Now, luckily, AI is actually really good at coming up with that. You just have to ask the right questions, and it'll create a good system. But I know for a fact that since I'm moving kind of fast and not necessarily trying to build this out, then I'm leaving some things out. We can always add that later. So, yes, implement, contextualize using framework. Docs, public, assets, source, styles, context, components, API. Don't have anything yet. API here. Auth, shift, users. Okay. One thing to note. We need a change log added to our docs. I know, we'll do it to the root. To the root fill out the change log with the progress of what we've done so far. If anything, yeah, I'll just do that. So I'm going to save that. Implementation follows the following frameworks. So you can review this if you want. I'm just going to say yes, though. And then I'm going to say what I just wrote down, which is we need a change log. I'm going to go for about 10 more minutes, by the way. So that's the goal here. I don't want to go and do a full thing. The goal is just to show like the setup. What I want to show next is, if possible, show the testing, but I might have to show that on my own tool since I actually have files. Accept. Okay, so next is based on what we've created. Let's find my prompt. Are we able to create the, do we need to create any tests? Do we need to create tests? I don't want to run them yet, but I want to make sure I check in after each file is created. I specifically use okay, so let's see. I have a structured thing for this that I want to show. This, okay. So you want, this is so helpful. This changed the game for me. And it's funny because like people who weren't here for the whole thing won't even necessarily know this, but this piece here is the single biggest impactful thing I've figured out. Is as I'm testing, I need a file called the testing.md file, and I'm going to have a name, the testable units, the test types, the status. Is it not tested, tested, or in progress? And what it does, just because it needs to constantly have awareness, and then the priority level. Then I can add extra stuff later. So I can add this to the bottom of the AI prompt to focus on a specific category. So let's say it did some tests and I already used this prompt. And then I'm like, well, okay, let's use this Gmail or whatever category we have of these and string together the meaning and story of these units, how they play together and form a narrative, use the narrative to contextualize the test problems we have. So that's one thing I do to really make sure that, okay, now we have the correct tests. Next, there's another thing. You could test the shit out of stuff. You don't need all the features in an API, especially if you have a minimum viable product. So this is the prompt I use for that. We use the RAD framework to figure out the tests that are needed, and then we use the TDD framework for executing those tests. That's all there is to it. So this becomes a review of so you have this, which is the overall. This to expand one specific thing in case you just want to make sure that before you move on that you've truly identified all the things. It'll give you some information when you do that, and then it might try to execute, stop it by just hitting the stop button, and then you'll say, "We use this framework. This is when you put this prompt in." And then you'll say something along the lines of, now reevaluate what you said or whatever, and it will. So just so you know, the RAD framework is basically the whether and it doesn't even matter what it actually is. What it does when AI is told about it is it will kind of take the minimum viable product approach to testing. So uh, nothing will break. Will this function? Are there any security holes that are like flagrant, openly, just like easy things that people could ruin? Like I could be ruined or sued. It's going to just look at that. It's not going to go for every possible situation, and that's what you want. If you don't say this, then oftentimes the AIs will start to like test some things that don't really matter. So next, you can say this too. But let's see. I'm not going to have time to go into this script. Um, okay. I'm not going to go further into this one. Let's go into Windsurf and show I've updated the changelog to the root directory, documents all our initial product. So one of the things to note here is that you can't just exist all in there. You're going to have to go to like these places. So especially if you have a database. So you would hit go to console. This is the database I recommend you, or sorry, the tool I recommend you guys all use initially is firebase.google, just because it's simple enough to get started. This is not the best out there. It is just really, and it's also not the cheapest. But what I love about the coding world is that a lot of what you're doing is free up until you actually are at a point where you're probably making some money anyway. So this makes it super easy to deploy. So you go to console, you hit create a project, enter the name, good to go. Um, let's hit the actual console on this one instead. Personal assistant. And then these are the three that I use. So I use storage, authentication, and database. And you can see them here under the build. It is so easy. It's like the most ridiculously easy thing in the world. So I think it actually takes me in. Yeah, it does. I'm not going to go deeper, but that's for this one, that is what you do. Now, keep in mind the where we left off with this specific project is you would still need to go through in every API. You're going to make sure you have all the documents in there. The iterative process is you're essentially as you create these files and then you identify the tests, you can use the prompt that is the this basically use. I'm going to end on this one. After each file is created, I specifically use this the RAD framework for identifying the tests, and I use TDD for executing. Let's do this. Paste. Create a testing.md in docs folder and make sure if unit tests needed, we have this format and checklist. Okay, something like this. Okay, great. We have 5 more minutes. For those that are here, any questions? I want to make sure that we have at least 5 minutes to go over specific stuff because at the end of this, I'll basically be able to come up with some more documents that'll help you guys to create stuff. For instance, right now, I'm doing this for social media, but I'm trying to build little tool or little assets like this that just kind of make it easy to say, all right, step 1 is you need to have these things. Step 2 is use these words for your descriptors. Step 3 is manually provide these things. I'm trying to create more of that. So if you have questions or you could benefit from something, happy to provide that to you.
I love it. I haven't seen that software yet, but it's pretty
Pretty,
smart.
pretty smart, right?
Yeah, it's good.
So I can accept all and definitely test on the Firebase. Firebase is this. Okay, so you have 2 different options here, guys. You could go continue and you could try to run a test from where we are now, and it'll give you some, hey, it's broken, you need to actually create an account or something. Or you could continue uh, and build out all the files, and then as long as you're pausing and then saying, hey, add to the test, using that framework, using that prompt, it's going to keep on adding to the testing doc, and this becomes a to-do list. So as you use the file creation prompt, you continue to have everything built out, but you'll pause, you'll update the changelog, you'll make sure that if there's testing that needs to be done, you add it to the testing file. If you want one extra layer, you can integrate GitHub. That's a thing for another time. GitHub is just cloud storage. highly recommend it because you can actually just, without even running a command, you can just say send to GitHub. It will. You're good to go. Um, and then you can also revert. So it's called versioning. But this way, uh, everything I teach about AI, guys, is all about starting at the smallest piece. So when you want to prompt, you deconstruct whatever it is you want. So if you want to build an article, if you want to write ad copy, you deconstruct what you want until its base component part. This is something I learned in college with Euclidean geometry, and we had to actually like build things with our hands, applying these principles. I remember the first question we had a Socratic reasoning teacher who was just like sometimes we literally the teacher the only thing he would say is no and or he would ask one question and then it was a bunch of no. And he wouldn't say anything unless we got it, and he would force the class to interact with each other. So it'd be like, what is a unit? Go. And we spent an hour and a half on that, and that was our first geometry class. And don't think like geometry in like high school sense. This was like very very hard. But yeah, so the concept of the unit is the most important thing with AI. You identify what the unit is. And what I love about coding is it's pre-built. It's like structured perfectly for AI. So much better than like writing or like copy, anything like that that's so vague. We're dealing with code that can talk to us. And if we're dealing with code, it's really good at reading code, executing code. And the thing that's really nice about code is it doesn't allow ambiguity. You have a specific word that has a specific definition that has outlined uses across the entire thing. There's no ambiguity at all. It's the literally for like an OCD or like
Yeah, yeah, we're in
some
love. We're all in love with the
yeah,
fonts.
like this is the best thing ever. I love this. So yeah, there's literally philosophers that have like killed themselves because of the frustration of all language having ambiguity and never being able to understand things. Like people get dread over this stuff. So I love code for this reason, guys. It's super fun. Uh, just to set expectations, I would say if you use these prompts, it's probably going to take you about 8 hours to get proficient with using my prompts. It takes about 10 hours to probably get really comfortable with like the location of where things are, how things work. So in under 20 hours, you're probably going to be, I would say in a week, if you really went hard, you could honestly hit junior level developer status in a week. Now I'm compressing 45 days of knowledge into this, and then you go like this, and then you'll plateau. So like this takes you to a certain spot, but you're not going to get to the next one until you start to learn some of the language. Keep in mind, just because you have a tool that can understand human language, if you use the precise terminology, you will always get a better result. So that's all there is to it. And I'm having a blast building this stuff out. And Joel, thank you for sharing that. I hope this was helpful for
Yeah,
your
thanks
personal
for
project.
doing what you did today. That was awesome. Just a quick, just confirmation, right? Your new doc that you just put up in Gamma was sick. That video yesterday was very helpful on
Awesome.
um, the structure. Like that was the stuff I was saying to you 2 weeks ago. Like
Mhm.
mapping that out allows for the visual kind of, folks to follow
Yep.
along. Sometimes stream of consciousness gets, so um,
Totally.
thank you for the maps. Um, the foundational doc, is there any amendment that you've done to that since the last one? Is that a
I
live
don't
doc
think
that we
so.
have access to?
I think it's still good the way it is. The only thing that's changed or that I've added is the testing methodology
Testing.
doc. So I'll add
Yeah.
testing to that. But
Is that a
actually,
test in the
out
in
of
the
all of
school?
this, Corey, the testing is the thing, Corey, that I thought you would like. That specific part of scaffolding that out because you know better than most. As Corey, by the way, has tried to build his own super intelligence and has gotten dinged by Google for literally crossing the lines of like human intelligence. They have like their own specific error for this. So he has gone deep in trying to create his own stuff. This guy's a super genius nerd. But you know what it's like trying to code and get AI to code. So hopefully this was helpful to you too.
Absolutely.
I'll make sure you get the testing. Corey's not even part of the group. He's just a buddy. And I just wanted him to be here to make sure that I don't spew nonsense. But
Corey,
It's
thanks for
beautiful.
your input, man. Excellent stuff. So
Yeah,
what do
if
you
you
do
got
when your daughter brings home a box with a butterfly in it? You know, like what the
what do
butterfly
I?
box. That's a Blade Runner reference.
Oh,
I
okay. I was like, what is
got
it
it.
from?
She's, you know, she's 4 years old, 2 months. She already is learning Python. So
Nice.
she
She's
kind of
like
exists in our
butterflies,
world.
huh?
We had a COVID baby and so yeah, butterfly in the box is every day with her. It's kind of always a new learning experience. But if I can contribute any value